linked with visual to me, and I've been probably one of the first ones to involve visuals at that scale in my performances, and we can see these days actually that visuals is everywhere as soon as we are talking about music performances.
What about your first experimentation with tape loops? Tell us about that, how that tape loops, when you first started experimenting with loops.
Actually, I mean, today we can, you are talking about tape loops, right? And this technique is dated from the 1940s in France with a guy called Pierre Schaeffer, who is really the father, as probably some of you know. Probably one of the first guy, I mean, who invented all. I mean, the loop, I mean, playing really with sounds. I mean, defining the idea that music is not based only on notes and based on solfeggio, but based on sounds and processing sounds. And actually, we all became after that kind of composers, but also sound designers. And these days, we can do loops on softwares in seconds. But in those days, the only way to do loops were with tape, scissors, and sellotape, and with a mic stand, where you have to put the mic stand like this, and then the tape would play on the tape recorder, on the head of the tape recorder like this, and you have to calculate the BPM of what you want to do. I mean, by the speed. It was just a calculation with calculating the speed of the tape machine and what did you want to create as a BPM, and then calculating in inch the first beat, the second beat, third beat, and so on and so forth. So it was quite a laborious technique. When you think in days, today you can do that instantly. But actually, on my one of my last album, Electronica, we did with Air, the French band Air, something similar. But we said, okay, on one track, why not visiting all the technique of part of the history of electronic music, and the beginning of this track called Close Your Eyes. I mean, we use this technique. I use this technique by the first loop has been made today, last year or 2 years ago with this technique. It was a big mistake because it took me 1 week of sweat, but to try to sync this with the computer. But we did it.
Let's try this one again. Okay, we've got another microphone working good. You know, those early experimentations, what drove you to want to do that, though? What was it about that form of creativity, that experimentation? What drove you to want to create something new?
I don't know really. I think maybe my grandfather has had an influence on me. My grandfather was a very interesting man. He was a musician, a oboist, but it was also an inventor. He created one of the first mixing desks before the Second World War, and also one of the first portable turntable with a speaker in the cover, you see, where you could listen to jazz or Edith Piaf at picnic on Sunday afternoon. And it was the grandfather of the iPod. And so it probably he influenced me a lot with this mixture of, I mean, technology and music probably. And also when I was younger and playing in rock bands, I loved to process the sound of my guitar, of my organ, and playing the solos in reverse and all this kind of shit. I mean, it was really interesting and I was into this. And then by chance, the drummer of this band his father was working in public radio in France, and where they had this fantastic music research center, which has been probably the first in the world to really experiment in a more professional way all different ways of experimenting with sounds. Really, and the idea was to, for the first time, somebody was telling you, doing music, you can do music with a microphone like this, and going to the street, recording the sound of the wind, the sound of the rain, the sound of the street, and making music with it. And that was actually at that moment totally revolutionary. Now every DJ is doing it, but in those days, I mean, he was the first one, and we owe these people for the 20th century, everything, because the music we are doing today in a rather traditional way is coming from these guys and from this period.
When did the Moog enter your life, the Moog synthesizer? Because that was the instrument you'd been waiting for.
Yes, when I got a bit of money, because on a French and European point of view, a Moog was like a Ferrari, you know. And so the first synth I've got was a British one called the VCS3. It was a poor version of a Moog. I say poor in terms of ingredients, maybe, but in terms of concept, it's one of the most interesting synth ever made. And actually, in a very symbolic way, I sold my electric guitar and my amp to go to London and purchase this first synth. And that was my first, really my first synth. And the Moog went afterwards. And obviously, but you know, it's very interesting. It's like an acoustic, like Gibson and Fender, for instance. I mean, every synth has its own sound, its own character. Is the reason why that I have quite a lot of, through time, I have quite a lot of instruments in my studio now. It's more and more difficult to get in, even, because it's full of stuff everywhere.
You know, once you had a few more tools, you were able to then start composing music for ballet and for television, for advertising as well. You're setting the table, so to speak, for recording your own albums. By the time you were ready for Oxygene, or Oxygene, excuse me, you were pretty much already somebody who was actively out there in France and in Europe and a well-known composer. When you set out to make that first record, first Oxygene record, can you tell us what you were trying to achieve at that time with the equipment that you had and what you had learned?
Actually, Oxygene has not been really the first album I have done, but the first commercial success, definitely.
The first Oxygene.
And I was really interested in those days by trying to create this bridge between experimental music and pop, really, or considering that probably what's the most important I always consider that the most important thing in music is the melody, and whatever you do with experimentation, and by the end of the day, the melody is important. So I tried to create this bridge between pure experimentation and exploring new technique, and but also in the context of melody and with a kind of pop approach. And I think Oxygene has that kind of. I tried to create that bridge. And also with probably an influence of classical music, classical and rock. It's all the mixture, which is interesting in electronic music. I was saying that if rock and roll is born definitely in this country and is a kind of ethnic music from America that invaded the world, definitely electronic music is born in continental Europe. Ethnic music always from Europe and invaded the world as well. And it's probably due to this influence of classical music, this long instrumental piece that we had as almost an heritage from classical music in Germany, in France, and continental Europe. I think it's certainly something which, when electronic music is born, it has nothing to do with jazz, blues, rock. It's something totally different. And I think that this is the reason why that the French scene, the German scene is pretty important, until these days.
What about that moment in time, though? You talk about the context of the music, but what about the context of the time, the early to mid-70s, 1976, a time of a lot of change, a time of social upheaval, but also a time when science fiction and the future was sort of colliding with reality as well. How did that fit into to the whole picture?
Actually, it's true that when I started doing music, it was in days where we had a kind of quite greed and quite optimistic vision for the future. We think that after year 2000, I mean, cars would fly and the social education system would be perfect. And we all know that we've been a bit disappointed after year 2000. And actually, it's like if we became a bit orphans of our future after year 2000, where we have no more vision. It's just since these past 6 years that, again, we have this kind now of lots of movies talking about the future. But it took quite a while. But back in days of Oxygene, I mean, one of the reasons of the success probably is because this music has been instantly linked to a kind of idea of the future, a kind of almost a kind of Romanesque or hopes we all had towards the future, and also environment. When I started, I mean, Oxygene has this kind of dark and sunny side. There is a kind of melodic, happy approach, but also quite dark, like the cover. And it's interesting to see that in those days we were considered as dreamers or hippie if we were thinking about taking care of the planet. And today everybody is aware of this. And that was also this mixture of ecology, environmental issues, and vision of the future that makes Oxygene in the context of this period quite special.
With the success of that album, you followed it up with Equinox, and I guess at that time you really began to expand on the idea of not just how the music would be heard, but how it would be performed, and you began to make plans for what has been a career of some quite marvelous, huge experimentations in performing live as well. And in 1979, he played at the Place de la Concorde to what was then, I think, a record crowd of a million people. Tell us about that, and tell us about the planning that went into that, and then how you've continued to really push the boundaries with live performance and the spaces in which you do perform the music as well.
Yeah, actually, I always considered that electronic music was linked with outside. I don't know why. I mean, maybe because jazz or rock is probably a music for clubs where you are actually literally plugging yourself into the power to get the power in your stomach. Where electronic music, for me, was always linked with I don't know, landscapes and outdoor situation, and also. Another reason of involving visual at very early stage for me was the fact that I realized, because I love instruments, I love music instruments, and if you think about a violin, a clarinet, an electric guitar, a Gibson or Stratocaster, these instruments have been made for sharing, playing, before anything. And then later on we put microphones on them to record them in studio. Then they went from stage to studio. For electronic instruments, it's the reverse. The electronic instruments have been devised in laboratories, in studios, and then we tried to put them on stage. And at the beginning of my career, I mean, staying 2 hours behind a synth is not the most sexy thing in the world. And you had to find something to try to share with the audience the feeling, the emotion of the performance. When you are doing a guitar solo or something in front of the audience understands that what they hear is what the guy is doing. With electronic music, it's more obscure, it's more ambiguous. So I really tried to explore this by actually trying to find the visual correspondences to the music I was playing. It really started from that. And also the fact that it was outside was also, and it still is with festivals, the idea that in days we are so connected, and it's even more now, we are connected to the world through screens, through virtual means. The idea of sharing the same event, shoulder against shoulder, and as a community spirit, as a community event, is something that, and then you know that you have no second chance, you can't go back the next Saturday to enjoy it. creates certainly something special. That probably explained the big success of these concerts, these outdoor concerts.
You know, the success that you had at that time really enabled you to do a lot of experimentation, both in recording and performance. And you were the first guy to go to China and do shows in Beijing and Shanghai, and I know you've been back since, and you're probably going to go again. You ran into a lot of red tape that first time around as well, didn't you, with trying to pull off something like that in what was then a little bit more of a restricted society than perhaps it is today. What did you learn from trying to take that music into a situation, I guess, that was just so unusual and so different? You're taking it into communist China. What did you learn from that?
Actually, the first time I played there it was like playing on the moon for both sides. I mean, people were. I went with a pretty new or revolutionary type of visual concept and concert that could be new on a New York point of view, or London point of view, and Paris point of view. And in China, they've been cut in the Mao's time for 30 years from everything coming from the West. So for them, it was a shock. And also obviously for us, the whole team was also something amazing to be in such a place where everything was different. And but I mean, I think which is interesting is that actually to learn. It was a learning process for me to think that, you know, we are here talking about technology and instruments, and actually by the end of the day in China, I really realized that whatever the instruments you use, whatever the technology you use, by the end of the day, the music is working or not, you know, and also whatever the number of the audience you are playing in, how big the audience, how small the audience is. By the end of the day, it's a very strange chemistry between two entities, the audience and the stage, and that works or it doesn't. And it's very, very special how you know, it's like on a tour. You play more or less the same kind of tour concert. Personally, I'm trying not to repeat myself too much from one concert to another, but it's more or less the same kind of during tour, the same kind of project. But actually, every night is different, depending on the audience, depending on this very special chemistry. And whatever you play, you can play on the guitar with symphonic orchestra, with a jazz trio, or with synthesizers. I mean, the music works or not. And it's really what I realized in China, because these guys in those days, they had actually no idea about these instruments. I mean, we came with the early samplers and very strange machines for them. It was culturally something not linked to music at all. And it worked because I think that also the melodies, the music was, in a sense, something that they could receive emotionally, probably.
I read somewhere that on one of those concerts, those early concerts, they were so not prepared for the amount of electricity that you would need that they had to shut down the adjoining neighborhood to make sure you had enough juice.
I knew it because they didn't say, but I heard later on that it was in Beijing actually. The first concert I did in Beijing, they switched off part of the city to give us the right amount of power. I don't know if these guys knew that I was responsible for it, but I never told them. So I'm still alone in the country.
They know now. Yeah,
they know now.
You know, through the years with live performance, you've done some amazing shows, and you've played the London Docklands, the Egyptian desert, back to China, Tiananmen Square, Moscow. There's a long list of places, but you've only ever played here in the United States once, and I believe that might be about to change.
Thank you.
So we're leaking this. You know, everything's leaking these days. We're leaking this a little ahead of a press an announcement that's going to be tomorrow. But you've only played in the States once before. It was in Houston. It celebrated Texas's 150th anniversary back in 1986. 1.5 million people. I'm sure it was fantastic. And you tied it to NASA as well, an anniversary with NASA. But